Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Bafun, and this podcast is an extension of my book, also called Listen to Your Footsteps, which is a collection of essays, reflections, and poetry on things like fatherhood, identity and belonging, growing up, creativity, and the lessons learned. The purpose of this podcast is to gain insight and learn from the journeys that others have taken. I explore the worlds of art, culture, design, business, creativity, and life from the perspective of Africans who are contributing to the redefinition of the continent and who we are. So welcome everybody. My guest today is Nthato Mashishi, considered one of South Africa's premier makeup artists. His client list over the last 20 plus years is a veritable who's who of South Africa's entertainment industry. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you
like I
for
said,
having me.
Very quick intro.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, funny enough, when I grew up, I wanted to be a doctor. Ask me why? Because I was drawn to anything of healing.
Okay.
But healing with what? With medicine. And I think because, again, my grandmother was, from my mother's side, was a nurse at Bara, and my mom was a nurse as well. So I was exposed to medicine, at a young age, So I thought me being a doctor would elevate because being born in the apartheid era, and then you come to a pre-democracy, you sort of like, there were careers, there were those stereotype careers when you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a policeman, you're a thing. And then you can, at least on the family side, you're elevating that standard. So I think it comes from there, part of it, but most of it is I knew that I'm a healer,
Where did you grow up?
My story, it's a mixture. I was born in Soweto, and then my mom passed on when I had a twin brother.
Oh, wow.
Identical. He passed on about 26 years ago. His name was Paving. So Dad got remarried to my stepmom, and we moved to Alex. So I like to say that I grew up in Alex most of when I started knowing things, because we're toddlers when my mom passed on. We were 1 year, 8 months. And then when Dad remarried, we were about 2 years. And everything that I knew, I did it from Alex. So I always identify myself with Alex more than anything.
I tend to jump around a bit. I mean, so I lost my mother when it's funny to say lost my mother. My mother passed when I was 14 months.
Wow.
Which has had a significant impact. As I'm older, I start to understand it. So like my relationship with women, how I view the world to a certain extent. And my father also remarried when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I had a mother till I was about 15, 16, and then my father got divorced. But I was always attached to my father. Like I was his appendage. Like no matter what happens, that's my parent. Are there things that you kind of look at now and go, oh, perhaps I do that, or I view the world because of that loss of your mother?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you this year, when my mother, it's about how many years when she passed on? 46 years now. And my dad sort of like forgot to, erect a tombstone for her. And I had to do it this year, because my dad kept on saying, I will. And this year, I just took it upon myself, and I just said, you know what? I have to do this. So in growing up, when I look at my life, especially when I was there, when they were erecting the tomb and stuff like that, there were just a lot of tears rolling, and said, I was just imagining my life, thinking about my life, connecting to this grave, and saying, if you were alive, how would my life turn out to be the way I am? And at the same time, I look at my life and I said, I'm glad to be where I am in life, and I'm glad to have all the experiences that I have had. And yeah, I just had mixed emotions. So
that's a hard one, because I've been through that myself, right? Because you go, everything that has happened leads you to a particular point. And when you look, so I've had that same internal conversation where I go, I think my life is all right. Like so far it's turned out great. Hasn't been perfect, but what life is perfect, and the ebbs and the dips are often what you need to be able to enjoy and thrive in the valleys. Help when you're at the top of the mountain.
Sure.
And the one day kind of going, okay, would I change it? Because if my mother was alive, my life would not be, I cannot guarantee to be exactly the way it is
turned
today.
out the way it is.
So that's a heavy internal conversation to have. Just in terms of making sense of it for yourself.
Yeah, even with me, even now, I mean, it's so weird that in my older age, that's a crazy conversation that I'm having with myself daily, especially coming from that process of erecting the tomb. And then the worst part again is she's lying, her tomb is next to my brother. So I had to erect 2 tombstones at once, because my dad, when my mom passed on, she bought a gravesite. So that's where we buried my twin brother when he passed on. So they're next to each other. And anyway, that's where I'm going to rest as well with my twin brother, whether I die married or not married. Whoever that comes in my life, they know that that's my resting final place. I'm not going to some West Park. So I agree with you that, I mean, it is a conversation that, because remember, when you are older, the young you sort of like revisit you. But now it's weird that it's coming so hard,
Yeah.
And
it's like there's a moment for everything. And we can't determine when it's going to come.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm glad to be where I am, And I look at my journey, and I always like to call my journey that it's been a journey of faith. Because ask me, where did I take that faith? I don't know. I think from a source, the higher power, because yes, it was a roller coaster, but I did it, and I'm proud to be where I am.
How did you end up? As a starting point, it feels weird to say, but at makeup. Like, how did you end up? And what's the phrase these days? How did you end up in face beating?
No, don't face beat. I enhance.
I like that, because
I don't face.
It's interesting how we use words and what those words imply.
Yeah.
But how did you end up? How did you end up kind of exploring that as a it's a vocation, it's a profession, but it's also a craft.
Well, for me, my story was in Alex. I did your performing arts. I was gravitating towards those things, arts. And I did, it was performing arts. It was, fine arts, And I remember when I was on that class of the fine art and whatever, I could feel that I'm drawn into color and just painting. But my painting, how it became beauty, it transcended into becoming a beauty one. It was I remember one day, this was the strangest moment, but that changed my life forever. I'm going to try to be quick into it. I love that story.
You don't have to be quick. We have time.
Okay.
This is not radio where I'm sitting there. I have to run an ad.
I have to put an ad.
Yeah, we're talking.
I remember we were playing. I think I was about 9 years, 10 years. We were playing outside in Alex. And then everyone during the day, boom, vanishes into their houses during the day. And the TVs, when we still had those black and white TVs, and everyone is watching TV. Gladly at home we had a TV. But I was wondering why the streets are empty. Everyone is rushing into the houses watching TV. I'm like, okay, let me go and join and see what is going on. And then people were watching there. And what they were watching, it was Princess Diana's wedding and Prince Charles.
Yes.
And I remember I was sitting down as a child. I was withdrawn to how she looked, her makeup, her hair, her dress. And I was looking, I was like, wow, this is so amazing. I think I like this. But I didn't know what it is. But from there, I think that's what changed my life. I sort of like walked around with that image. Wherever that I'm going, it was a thread, doing the fine arts, doing the performing arts, There's this beauty thing that is just coming forth all the time. And that's how easy it was.
That wedding is crazy because, I went to what was essentially a British school. And we closed school. Like I remember, school closed. And we all went home and I think we went to a friend's, I think we had a television, but a group of kind of families got together to sit in front of the television and watch this wedding. Which, looking back now, it seems so crazy to say, but yeah, that was an era.
Those were great moments where people would sit around TVs, even when there were story times and stuff like that. Your neighbors didn't have TVs and then they would come in and then it's a story time. And then that show, like you watch it, all these amazing shows, But now when you're looking at TV alone or you look at TV on your phone, it's so weird. It's so surreal that, okay, it used to be like this.
Yeah.
A gathering, and then the next thing, it's like an isolation.
We would sit together for La Poloja on a Friday.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Or the Cosby Show. Like where my father's calling us to watch the Cosby Show because whatever lessons that are going to come out, he wants to make sure that you learn those lessons. What was the process from, okay, this appeals to me.
Okay.
I'm on a journey to, okay, I can do this as a profession. And this is how I'm going to learn how to do it as a profession.
Okay. So what happened is, because remember, I'm on that cloud and this thing is just, it keeps on coming to me. It's becoming real every moment. Whatever that I do, it's like it's here. It's reminding me that this is you. It's your destiny for some reason. Now that I can put it into words right now. But then I couldn't understand it. And I finished my schooling. And when I finished my schooling, I did a degree in human resource. And I hated it. Because, my father was like, oh, you have to go to school. These makeup or riri, it won't pay bills and stuff like that. Well, I followed my father. And I did whatever that I had to do. And then afterwards, I remember immediately when I graduated, I gave him the degree and said, here's your degree. I'm going to follow my heart now. Because I was that stubborn child, between the two of us, the twins. And my father hated that, because I was a go-getter at a tender age. And I would question things. I would want to do things my own way. but not being rude or disrespecting. And then afterwards, I went to technical college, and then I tried to do the cosmetology course, which I didn't finish. Cosmetology, it's a study of hair, hairdressing.
Okay.
But I didn't write my final board exam and whatever. I got bored because here's a thing of color and paint. It's nagging me. Then at that time, I was working in a salon in Alex, part-time. Started when I was at school, and then still when I was still at school, I was working part-time and weekends. And then I told the owner, who was very supportive of my dream, and then I told her that I want to go and study makeup. And then I searched for schools, and then I came across Black Like Me Academy at that time. It was called Beauty Palace. It was in Commissioner Street, next to Thingy, to Carlton Center. And then I find everything about it, and then I liked it, and then I enrolled. It was a diploma, a national diploma for a year and a half. So I was working during the weekends, and then weekdays I'm at school.
Okay.
And the nicest thing about Black Like Me, yes, it was still, I think that academy was still associated with Herman Mashaba because he's the founder of it. And, but they were very good. They were very, very good. And what they did is they taught us, before you even touch makeup, you were taught about skin products. Makeup would be the last thing. I was jumping up, and all of us were jumping up and down. We want to put color. They're like, come. We start these modules. They start from skin, products, business management, what. And then they take you the whole through things. And then after that, that's when then you can start touching your brushes. They teach you about colors, how to put foundation, different color charts and stuff and all of that. So that's where I did my formal training as a makeup artist. And the nicest thing is I was discovered whilst I was still at school, but I was at my last year finishing. And I was discovered by a producer from Izo. And because we used to have like people and do practicals on them, walk bys, would like practice with people, do facials. And then I remember this lady, she came in and she liked to come in and do her facials because people, it was like a freebie for them, and for us, we were learning, it was our canvas. And then she always liked me how I would do her facials and stuff like that. And I said to her, I know how to do makeup now. She says she's going to an event. And I'm like, can I do something on you so that she's like, no, I'm not a makeup person. I'm like, I promise you, I'm not going to make you look like a raccoon or anything. Promise me, you're in a good head. Then I did my thing. Afterwards, she's like, okay. And then late at night, funny enough, I don't know how she got my phone number, surely through the school. And then I got a phone call from her. And then she says, they said you've turned an ugly duckling into a beautiful swan. I'm like, who am I talking to? And she's like, no, get Desiree. Desiree from where? Desiree, the one that you did makeup today, the one that you always do my facials and stuff like that. You remember I told you I work for a TV production. I'm like, oh, how's Desiree? Okay. Then she said to me, we're shooting a music video next week for the soundtrack for Yizo. It was when Tembi was there, when Dabaloi was there and stuff like that. We're shooting a music video. Would like you to come through and do your thing, I'm like, no, I'm still at school. I can't leave school. And then she's like, oh, my production manager will talk to you and give you details. Poof, he dropped the phone. Didn't give me a chance. There I was shaking. I didn't know what to do, but I just wanted to do it. And then they called me. They arranged to come and fetch me the following Friday. And then I went on set. I remember they were shooting the music video where it was shot in Davidton.
Mm.
And then I arrived there. I see all these big stars, your Tembi, your whoever, even the boys were there, at that time, And I must say, Tembi said it was very nice to me. He was like, you know what? We heard so much about you. We've seen what you can do. Do your thing. Calm down. Just do your thing. Did my thing. Everyone was loving. But I didn't understand what is a director, what is a producer, what is a whatever. So I had to learn fast on that day. And I remember a DOP, he nearly kicked my ass, that guy, because here I was. I didn't know that there's a time where you wait for them. You don't just jump when they're still shooting and touch up and stuff like that. I come with a spray and it's like, what are you fucking doing? You're going to mess up my lens.
Get out of my shot.
And I'm like, oh my God, this guy, And yeah, it was a daunting experience, but it was thrilling as well. And finally, it was starting to make sense. Okay, I belong here. And I remember when I was offered a job to work with them on set, and I was like, this is not for me. These are the people that discovered me, but they offering me a permanent job on set. And I was like, this is not for me. I'll tell you why I said this is not for me. Yes, it's in line of what I want to do, but it's not for me. It's because I've always loved high fashion when it comes to makeup, and I always loved to create. And I don't like to follow, because when I saw it on set that day, I could see that you're following the same people, and I'm going to follow these people for like months and months every day, running after Kojo with the powder every day and whatever. I'm like, I don't think this is what I want to do. For now, I think I want to create. I want to go into high fashion. I want to do magazines. I want to do runaways. I want to do fashion. I want to do commercials. So I was very clear where I was going. And then, but they were gracious. They were like, okay, when you want to come, you must know that the door is always open. And I'm like, okay, sharp. We'll see you. Then I went and registered with an agency that was representing artists, makeup artists, photographers, hairstylist, fashion stylist. At that time, it was called professional bookings.
Because on the surface, from the outside, we don't know these things, right? You have an idea of maybe actors. You have an idea of musicians having management or booking agents, but not realizing that there's also another world behind of
the engine of them.
So everybody behind the scenes, there's also a structure there.
And a very strong structure. That's why I call it the engine. And that engine, most of the time, it's not shown. It's not that the stories are not being told. And I guess maybe that's why we're having this conversation, so that people can be enlightened that there's a big engine that it's running. When you see somebody sitting there, or you see a magazine just being there, there's a whole lot of people that runs that machine. So that's exactly where I come from. So when I joined professional booking, predominantly that time it was like white people. And the only person that was there was fateful.
Okay, yeah.
Which is one of the greatest makeup artists that we ever had here in South Africa. And Sadiq was a hairstylist. And I remember I used to buy True Love magazine. At school, I used to hide it under the books, and that's how I got to know about them, because I've always wanted to work with them, to be, they inspired me as well. And I remember they were signed by this agency, because I could see all the time it was Sadiq from professional bookings, Fateful professional booking. So I checked professional bookings. So the agency was in Rosebank, I found them, called them, put an appointment. They rejected me. I don't know, because at that time I think I was still very small. Here's a black young boy, small, wanting to get into this. You're not sure. I don't know if I didn't look the part or whatever. And then I was persistent. I kept on going and knocking on their doors and say, "Hey, la, I belong inside here. I need a chair in this table, in this party. I've got a chair. I need a chair here." And the bookers, they could see that this one is not giving up. We tell him stories and whatever. He's not giving up. I remember they said to me, "Okay, come with your thing," because I didn't have a portfolio. They wanted a portfolio. I was like, "What is that?" Portfolio, it's a resume, your work, what you've done, but in pictures.
Yes.
And I was like, I only did this production, only this music video. And then I asked for pictures there. They were like, "No, it's not enough. We want this." And they come with all sorts of stories. Then me, not being persistent, I went there. And then they're like, "Okay, can you do a demonstration in the office?" They gave me a model with, like when they call someone from the kitchen, Sisiwako kitchening, that is doing a tea. And like, "Okay, do her makeup. Let's see if you can do your thing, And she had pimples, she had bad skin and stuff like that. And as I was doing my thing there, I was taking my time, doing my thing there, and they were ignoring me. They were busy with their phones, bookings and stuff, and they would look at me when they want to. And sometimes it's sort of like clutters with your confidence when somebody's not supposed to be looking at you and saying, "Yeah, no," or you look at the body language. I think they were intimidating me, but I was not intimidated. I just said to myself, "This is what I want and I'm going to get it." And I went around his skin and I did my thing. After, when I was done, they were like, "Wow." They were clapping. There were like 4 bookers inside. They were like, "Wow. You know why? You've passed, you've ticked all the rights. We're looking, we're intimidating you, we're doing this, we're doing that. And we're playing with your confidence and whatever, but you were just there doing your thing and whatever." And the nicest thing again is this woman, we've never seen her looking this beautiful. I mean, she's got a problematic skin, but you made her look so we're signing you. Let's sit down. That's how I got my contract. I didn't even get a lawman to come and read it. I was like, "Yay, I will see after." Sometimes in those days, which is a mistake that we do even these days.
Yeah.
You just sign and you're not reading and stuff. You're getting excited. By the end of it, you're caught in something that you can't even get out of it, or something that is costing you your dear life. So luckily at that time, thanks God, it wasn't something like that,
Yeah, when you see what the percentages agencies taking versus
that's where
recently signed my son up at an agency, my son and my daughter. My son was looking at the commission. He's just like, "They're taking how much? Why are they taking so much?" I'm like, "Dude, they have to put in their work." Because I used to be a booker. I worked at an agency. So.
Yes.
I mean, you've worked with, I've said like a who's who. And I would think that you're now at the stage in your career where when you're working with somebody, when you're enhancing someone, you don't have to deal with ego. I'm assuming in terms of your journey. But in the early days, as your clientele started, becoming a bit more famous, having a bit more public personalities, what has it been like navigating different personalities? Because you're getting into the personal space of another person, and there are all these personalities and all these dynamics, and there's ego, there's how they perceive themselves, how they perceive you, what they perceive your role as. What has that been like?
Well, for me, it was a learning journey, because most of the time I kept it to myself. and I respected the space that I was in. And I remember I said to you, I had to learn quick. I was a fast learner in what I wanted to do. And I would see how people behave, as you're saying, that you're in people's spaces, you know, and people, you're dealing with different personalities. And when you're working with Kojo, you're working with who, and some of them, they're rivals, you know, some of them, you know, there's politics, even brands, this and that. And so I had to sort of like sit in my cocoon and look at people that have been walking that path. What is their behavior? And I had to look at people that I'm dealing with. And when me and them are in the same space and me and them, we are working together, what are the results? And the nicest thing is I've always been professional. I tried not to involve myself into personal stuff. And yes, sometimes there are clients that you grew fond of them. You ended up becoming friends and stuff like that. But I'm one person that I would put my foot on the ground when it's business. Business is business. I wouldn't mix business and pleasure. I knew when it's time to play, it's time to play. When it's time to work, it's time to work. And I wouldn't, most of the time, I didn't like to be in the more personal spaces, you know. They would invite me to their houses for lunches, for trips and stuff. And I was that one who was quick to say, unfortunately, I can't do it. But I would do it where it works, it benefits me. I don't just jump into it, because I realized that when you mixing the two, the problem is they're not going to respect you as a profession, because they see that you don't respect yourself as well. And again, you're not going to get your salary in time if they're paying you personally. And again, I would say South African big names are not even loyal. They want the best next thing. So those are the things that I was learning, that you could be like the heat of the moment right now, and then the next thing you're out of the game. They take you out of the game. The next thing they're not using your services. Yeah. So for me, I had to grow that thick skin very fast and start putting myself as the businessman. And then I was putting my foot down and saying I am the business first. Yes, I'm the artist first, but vice versa. I'm the business first. So a lot of people hated that, but the ones that understood, they understood exactly where I was coming from, because even with them, there were businesses that I was working with. I've worked with bigger brands that are businesses. And the ones that didn't want to take it, it was okay. I didn't have hard feelings or anything. But I realized in our industry that that's how you get respected, how you behave, how you put yourself out there. But if you put yourself out there in another way, that's how they're going to take it as well. And that's how they're going to receive you as well. And the sad part is you're not going to have longevity. That's the sad thing, that when I'm looking at the young ones these nowadays, even when I work with them, I try to tell them, like, this is how you should do things. And mind you, I'm doing it for free. These kind of things, you can pay people to lecture you, to go and to do these courses and stuff like that. But because these ones, they're like, they want the quickest thing. They do all the bad things. Actually, out of 10, they would do like 8 wrongs.
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. I delve into their journeys, the decisions they've taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the conversation takes us. It's interesting because it's been rebranded as, it's now beauty influencer. Right?
Yes, it's influencer. Yes,
it's beauty influence, and like you're saying, and I was having this conversation recently because worth and value has been put into numbers, right?
Yes.
So number of followers, number of likes, number of comments.
Mm-hmm.
It's always just a number,
Mm-hmm.
which is also always shifting.
Sure.
Number in terms of engagement, etc.
Mm-hmm.
The decisions being made are short-term decisions,
Mm-hmm.
which do not guarantee an element of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, I find like the whole idea of influencer is centering yourself in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you as a makeup artist, you're providing a service, you're a professional. Like you said, you compartmentalize. Yes, you have access to spaces,
Mm-hmm.
but you have access to space so you can provide your professional services to it.
Sure.
And because you're being very clear about if, we may get along, we
Mm-hmm.
may know each other,
Mm-hmm.
but if we're in a particular setting and you're there to provide a service, that's what you're there to do.
Sure.
It's not to hang out. It's not when you've finished providing your service, now you're walking out with me to do X, Y, Z. It's like, you've done your work. Here's my invoice. You move on.
Sure.
Whereas the whole influencer world that's what's, the person is centered.
Sure.
So you as the makeup artist, you're now the focal point in the center of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, because it tends to be fickle. Like today it's this person, then next week is that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to then fall off if you're not creating that kind of foundation.
Sure. You're right. I mean, it's exactly, that's a good analogy of what you've just said right now. And it's sad though, because it's killing the industry. I'll tell you this. That's why right now, the industry it's really, I mean, these kids, I mean, yes, they'll be the focal point of that time. And then the next thing you see them, they're out of the game. And now they're knocking on your doors and they're asking you. But still the sad part, you find that because they're used to that fail manier, I'll call it in Afrikaans, like that those bad habits being a central of attraction and stuff like that. And when they're supposed to roll up their sleeve, because I'm about that. I roll up my sleeve and I do my work. And even everyone that knows me, you meet my work. I like you to meet my work first before you meet me. Yeah. I'm about my work and that's it. Anything else will follow after. We'll see I will see if I fall into it or not. That's how I am. So when you're teaching them, you're giving them when you open your bag of wisdom and you're giving them those armor, they feel like, from old school, bit bitter, you don't understand, maybe you don't have the numbers that we have, this is how this works and whatever. But they forget that that's why when you look at me right now, I've stood the test of time because I knew exactly who I am, what I want, and I did everything the way I wanted to do it. I went to school. I studied for this. I understand this. And beside that as well, I did like courses, like side courses, like your business management and stuff like that and whatever. And remember, even my degree teaches me when I'm in the boardroom, I can still, because a lot of people, they don't even know that I have that. When I'm in the boardroom with the client and we are negotiating a deal, and then some of them, they would wonder, why are you talking our language? And I don't really say to people unless somebody probes into it.
I mean, I never knew, and I've known you for how long? Exactly. I never knew that you did HR.
Exactly. So, but that helps me as well. What I've learned, that was not lost in vain.
Yeah.
That helps me because I apply it into my work. Because when I'm in the boardroom, then I'm playing a double stunt. I hit you left, right, and center, and You find people that don't understand why this person. We thought we are driving this ship, but you are driving this ship. Why are you talking our language? But you could tell the actions. Some of them, it's few of them that would come to me and wanting to know, how do you know this kind of stuff and whatever? But I hardly tell people because I think that's a beautiful armor, But anyway, from now, people will know with this.
But also, I think, it's helped you because I think about, so having been in magazine, for example, and you kind of expanding and growing into it, and finally getting the, styling the shoots for magazine and doing makeup for magazine. And that whole sector, if you look over the last, 5 years ago, it was already more or less gone, especially in this country.
Sure.
I would think that foundation that you've had has enabled you to also to shift and to evolve with the industries that you work with and you touch on. Did it have a big impact on your work? As magazines started, because there was a particular period, like I was a Destiny man, but your Cosmos, your Glamours, the shift to more online, therefore people are not putting as much money into a shoot because those pictures are going to go online and they can,
Sure.
Whereas for print, there was a lot more that went into it.
Well, I've seen the industry evolving over, I've been over 2 decades now. Almost 27 years into it, 26, 27 years. And I've seen the industry evolving. And it's said, though, that especially here in South Africa, particularly, because remember, this was the hub of the continent when it comes to the industry. And it's said that, bigger magazines just closed down, for the last few years, especially after, and that happened before even COVID came. Actually, I could tell that something is shifting here. Because remember, when we start this conversation, I said I wanted to be in the high fashion space, which are magazines. Magazines, it's part of it's that tool of the high fashion. And for me, I quite loved working in that space. And I thrived in that space. And even one of the magazines that I've worked with over the years since I started my career, which is True Love. It was so funny that I was inspired by True Love and people that were working for it. I served almost on all the editors, except one editor. It was one editor that I didn't serve under. It was during the COVID time. She didn't use my services. But when now the new editor came back, the older editor was reinstated in Bali, and then she called me back because she knew that I understand the DNA of the magazines, of the magazine world, and especially that particular brand as well, because I've been with them and I understood the reader. I understood my target market, understood how things are done. At some point, I even tell photographers what lighting, how do you shoot? You can't, this is not going to work. Let's say maybe a fashion editor is not there, or a beauty editor is not there, or an editor. I'm like, this is not going to work, And for me, I'm glad that I've learned that, because it was an armor as well on my side, because I'm inspired by photography, for instance. I'm inspired by a whole lot of things, and now you find that I'm an onion. I've got so many layers into myself. That came with a beautiful experience, because I could do a lot of things. I could commentate. I did radio. I did so many things. When it came fashion, styling. I did awards, I did this and that. And for me, it's because I wanted to be in that space. And it was a beautiful thing to sort of like discovering myself in so many dimensions and seeing myself evolving as well, and not crying for that spilled milk. And because that milk now it's spoiled, and you say, what now? You have to regroup. And the nicest thing is, remember, because I said to you, I'm about my work and people know my work. And even now, what makes me be the person that I am and still standing tall is because of the relationships that I've built over the years. Honestly, right now, they can take anybody that they want to take. But now I find that I do jobs that I love doing. It's so fulfilling because I don't jump into any little job. I'm not in that space of fighting with the influencers.
Yeah.
And I do jobs that I know that it's of value to me and it's of value to the client. So both of us, we know that it's of value to us. And yeah, it really affected us, this thing of, like magazines closing down, even with productions closing down. It's not even magazines only. It's bigger productions that are production houses that are closing down. And you need to sort of like maneuver yourself and see where are the trends now. And even if when the trends are going that side, do you want to follow that trend or do you want to be yourself in what way? So I had to rediscover myself and I branched into film. And how film found me, it was during COVID, where I was offered a job to come and do, to be a head of wardrobe and makeup for a film. And I was like, but I've never done film in my life. And I remember the executive producers, they said to me, everywhere where we go, your name was just coming up. So unfortunately, you are a guy. But I said to them, I can't even read a script to save my life. I don't know what happens. And for instance, again, I never liked this thing of following people for the longest time. They're like, you know what? Here's a deal. Do you want to do it or not? But we really want you on this project. They begged me. After begging me, I was like, why not? I was fascinated as well after they gave me the whole thesis about film.
That was the Woman King, right?
No, that is one of them later.
Hey, look at
It
you.
is.
See the things that you keep to yourself that we don't know about.
It's my first film is called The Domestic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a horror meeting. So it was funny because it was the genre, it's horror, but the horror meeting, it was high fashion with horror. And where I came in was the high fashion side to match it with horror. But now I had to learn to read the script. I didn't know the wording. Like, there's those codes that they call them. I don't know what it's SG, what it's P1, what it's whatever. And I remember that they said to me, I think the magic word that made me jump into it again is when they said, we'll hold your hand. That for me, I said, good shot. Let me go for it. Then I learned to read the script because remember, when you're a head of the department, you're an invisible character. You need to know your script like the characters. You're that invisible character because when they say scene 1, day 3, this is what it's happening. You have to say it first. This is what she's dressed up like this. This is a continuity. Wara. You even have to lead. I find myself in productions leading the directors and say, oh, it's when she's doing this and that and that and that and that and that. Like, oh, okay. Somebody knows their job now, hey? So yeah, it was beautiful. The involvement of like production houses in terms of high fashion closing down and magazine businesses closing down. And it made I had to revalue myself. And luckily, somebody was looking at me and they knew that I was capable of doing that. Even though at that time I wasn't sure that it's what I want and I'm capable. And I'm glad that I jumped into the wagon because it's a space that I'm enjoying right now in being on films. But I still do my campaigns. I've just shot a Nivea campaign right now. And I still do a lot of magazines. I still do. The only thing that I hate doing with all my the passion, music videos. I hate doing that. I hate doing. I just did Thandiswa Mazwai's music video.
Yeah, I saw that because I saw the pictures.
When I was on set. I think
what's different about that? Because it's not the subject, right? It's not the person that you're working with.
Yes.
It's the form.
Yeah, it's a form. It's that world. It's like you know how we used to do music videos and how they are doing it right now. It's another thing that it's so tedious for me.
Okay.
To call it, because remember, you can even take your phone and shoot a music video. Anyone can be a director. Anyone. So it's when I see it as a play space, it feels like sometimes they're not aware even on their set who they have and what value it can bring to their projects. Okay. So for me, I think I come from that old school where everybody is very important to make sure that this vision and mission comes together and it looks amazing. You know, you're taken seriously when you're a gaffer. You're taken seriously. You're a specialist in that. When you're a sound guy, when you're you're specialized in that. Now it's like, Spanban, my bra can do it, man. You mustn't tell us, man. Hey, with your old school gedachte, hey, you mustn't tell us. So, you know, like how the language, how they treat you, how the treatment, how they speak to you, that not respecting people's time, not staying true to the vision and mission and the mood board, you know, all those things. So I find that it's like, it's so tedious when you get to that space. People don't respect you in terms of you have to drive yourself with your car, you have to change locations and this and whatever. And remember, you're a creative. You need to produce incredible work. All you're thinking about is it's for you to think. You don't have time to be sitting on a traffic, you're changing the second location, and then so find me somebody to drive me around, or a production car where we park our cars in one space, and then we can go to wherever that we need to, so that I can concentrate into delivering a good product. I think
it's that DIY-ness of it. Like, everybody can kind of do it, and there's a benefit, there's a value in that. Like, there's a value in more people getting access to being able to do certain things.
Yes.
But some may say, for those of us that are a bit older, it's this. There's still boundaries and there should still be parameters.
Sure.
I mean, I remember when you're talking about music video, I mean, I haven't been around a lot of music video sets, but I remember being at the shoot of Proverb's, what is it called? Writers Club.
Okay.
And I called it my video vixen moment. So the only music video I've ever featured it. And Proverb got a group of us as writers.
Okay.
But the director was Tebogo Malope.
Oh, okay.
And I think he was still starting out. And I remember being fascinated when we got on set to see that he had storyboarded the entire video. And he had actually sketched it out. So we got there and it was the sketches of each shot and where each of us
feature, yes.
And when I saw that, and it was the first, like I said, first time I was on a music video set. And so when I look at him now and I look at what he's done since then, because of that experience, I'm not surprised.
Sure.
So there's that.
Comes from I think it comes from Bomb as well.
Yeah.
You know, Bomb is produced. Even with me, I'm a product of Bomb.
Bomb is.
I think Bomb really they were revolutionary. You know, like they were ahead of their times. It was a school of excellence, I must say. You know, in so many fields, because if you follow everyone's, I've learned, because part of my work is I research all over the world, not even here. I research brands that are successful, what makes them tick. And I would look at, like their story, like your Michael Jackson, your Miriam Makeba. Why Miriam Makeba? I'm intrigued by so many things, so many people. Your Estee Lauder, how was Estee Lauder built? That brand. So it's part of my research that I've been doing over the years. But it's a personal thing that I'm doing, to kind of like want to know why these people, why do people go crazy about these people?
Yeah.
And even locally, that's when you find that, Bomb features a lot.
Yeah.
Bomb that
it does.
Everyone that is so good comes from that school, of like Bomb and doing things proper. And then you come to a place and then it's a monkey game, and then you're like, this is not for me. But because my client wanted me to be on the job, which is, King Ta, and I would like, okay, I would just, yes, I would have their conversations on the side with her, but I would stomach it for her.
Yeah.
And like, you know what, I hate how production it's doing things here. And not that I'm superimposing myself, but I think it's better when I think I'm a professional. When I'm in a place, you've seen me working. You've had that luxury of seeing me working. When I'm at work, I'm at work.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And hence I could work with even the A-listers, the Hollywood stars, because when I'm there, I'm not a fan, but I'm there to provide a service. And I do what I gotta do, and I deliver. I don't have time to faff around and stuff like that. Yes, there'll be time to play around on certain, but when it's time to deliver, I deliver. When it's time to be professional, I become professional. When it's time to show up, I show up. And the other thing, again, people don't respect people's time. And people go over hours and do this and that, and it's like a whole lot of funny things that are happening. Maybe I don't know. I haven't done a music video in a long time. So for me, it was kind of like a shock into my system. But I remembered why I hated music videos, because I saw that when I started hating music videos, because I worked with so many artists, and I saw the whole thing was just going where it was going, this thread was going where, and I was like, I don't think this is what I want. Maybe if you do your CD sleeve, yes, would do that. You do your publicity, would do that. Your performance, you do that. Because surely those ones, at least because you're dealing with a whole lot of audience and time, it's of essence. Time, you waste the time, it's money.
Yeah.
So music videos these days, it feels like we don't care even if we can waste this money, because there's no money anyway.
There's a value in that, in this idea of professionalism, like in terms of, when I still used to perform poetry, or even if I'd MC something, I've done it once or twice, but I always say, I will be there when you tell me this is my call time.
Sure.
Even though we all know you're probably not going to start at that time. And my whole thing has always been, as long as I'm fulfilling my side of the bargain.
Sure.
If you're paying me to do this thing and you say you want to see me at this time, I'm there at that time for myself.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, I can say I did all the things that I was supposed to do.
Yes.
Then if we're having a conversation, if there's any disagreement, it's off what you did, not off what I did.
Sure.
But also what you're talking about in terms of when you're working, we've both been, but I suspect you more so, being exposed to and interacted with people who society places higher than most, whether it's celebrities, whether it's public personalities, politicians, all of that stuff. And that interaction, from the first interaction, can determine what that relationship looks like.
Absolutely.
Moving forward.
Absolutely.
And if you're a fan and that first point of contact is you as a fan, it'll cloud that relationship.
Sure. And the project that you're doing.
And the service that you're providing. Because we do that, right? We immediately place somebody somewhere.
Sure.
And that's what the other person is doing because they're exposed to, and I joked because I haven't often taken pictures with people. I mean, I forget to do it just in general.
Sure.
And I've been in spaces and interacted with people and interviewed people, and somebody go, "Oh, do you take a picture with them?" I'm like, "No." I didn't even think to take a picture because I'm there to interview you.
Sure.
So I'm thinking about my questions. I'm thinking about the interaction,
the storyline, how it's gonna play out.
Even if I am an admirer,
yes.
At the end, when I'm done, I may go, "Do you know what? Thank you very much for that. I must say, I really like your work." And then I leave.
And some of them, they get surprised themselves.
And then somebody's like, "Yeah, but did you take a picture with him?" I'm like, and my one cheesy line the one time, I was like, "Well, he didn't ask to take a picture with me."
Yes, me too.
And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, like at the end of the day, I remember the experience. Like,
yes.
So there is that value.
You're sort of like, sometimes you're like me. Sometimes I get like that. I get selfie. There's someone, if I work with someone that I admire so much, I get so selfish that I don't want to. Sometimes I become conscious about it. It sits in my conscious that I want to have that experience all to myself. I don't care whether you believe me or not. But I know that I did it. If you want to go as further as investigating and go and ask that person, then be my guest and ask them. Then you'll get what you want. But I do that. There's some people that I become very selfish. I want to. Where I look at it and say, this is not even worth a picture. It's worth the experience, breathing the same space, same air, being the same space, and telling. And that's why when you're telling when you tell your story, they're part of your story because these are the stories that are making up who you are as a brand. You'll be able to tell your stories in a beautiful way where people. Remember I said to you, I'm an onion that I enjoy unpeeling myself because you will find it, even if you are somebody sitting there, a client, you'll find so many things to me. I've got so many layers to me. But unless you want to peel me, that's when you will find those layers. But if you don't want, you putting me in one bracket, then that's it. It's okay. Be my guest. So I do agree with you. There's those amazing moments where I'm like, I know people would die if they see me with this person, and stuff like that. I remember one of my biggest moments was that I was selfish with was when I was booked to do Barack Obama's makeup for the lecture, Mandela lecture at the Wanderers Stadium. And I remember he arrived late. In a helicopter, Americans are so anal and stuff, and he arrived late. But he was so gracious to greet me, and he arrived at the time where he has to run to the stage. He doesn't even have time for powder or anything. But for me, taking that him with his cameras taking my picture, I didn't even care to follow up and say or give somebody my camera and said, the president of America is shaking my hand. I was supposed to be touching him and whatever. I think I was stressed that I needed to do my job here. And when you're arriving and then you're jumping off to stage now, luckily, I got paid and stuff. And I remember again working those years when I used to work for Top Billing. And we're interviewing Oprah Winfrey. And she arrived, and doing her makeup. She asked me to do her makeup. It was like, oh my, because I kept on composing myself within myself. I'm like, you know what? do what you gotta do because she liked what she saw, your work, and she wants you to touch her face. And for me, I didn't even take a picture with her because that I wanted to be in the moment, and I was selfish with that. So yeah, there's so many moments. I mean, even with Tata, when I did Tata's makeup, when she was still, he was a president of our republic. I was very selfish with that moment, because it was an experience to be there, and I wanted to feel every moment, and I enjoyed it.
So where are you now as we wind down? I mean, what's giving you joy now? And what are you working on? What does life look like?
What gives me joy is I think there's always been the unknown. But it's an unknown. I'm coming from, I mean, we can see that, like even our economy, the world economy, it's like changing. And everything is just, you never know. I mean, we've just voted right now. Just came from our vote, our polling stations and stuff. And you're wondering what holds, what the future looks like in my industry. And honestly, I'll be lying. I don't know what it looks like. It's just there. But I know that within myself, I want to do things that I think I've already established that foundation of saying, I'm going to do things that I love doing and things that make sense to me for even to the other party, which is the brand or might be whether it's a production or whatever. I want us to, it's more like collaboration, but doing things that they're going to be here, even if we are long gone, they're going to be there for ages. People, they're going to know that this was what took place around this era. Because right now, remember, even the world, there's a global change, global warming and stuff like that. The world is just changing. Life is just changing. We are at that hectic moment in life where we are witnessing the change of it, whether it's work, whether it's climate, whether it's economy, whether it's politics, whether it's business, whether it's whatever, it's changing. We are witnessing that. But you tend to have those conversations with yourself. Where do I feature in this change? And for me, I have a lot of those conversations. And sometimes they are scary conversations because you sort of like look at yourself like really, really, really naked now, and facing the reality of saying, what is it for now? What is it for me now? What's next? I think for me, it's a very tricky question to answer. I think I'll follow the path that I've created and doing things that I love and things that they mean so much for me and things that are very valuable for generations to come. Because I remember when I started, when I was in those art schools and whatever, and when I got my moment into being in the spotlight as the makeup artist to the stars and being one of the best, in the continent has ever seen. My motto was, I want to pave ways for other young black people that will come after me, which of it's what I always tell people, that these influencers, and I said, even if you don't know who I am, but one day you will know that I've paved the space for you to be here, because I've come into the space where doors were shut down at our faces, and I had to kick those doors, and I had to kick them very hard, but not in a violent way. But because I believe that we as a majority black people in our continent, we belong in those spaces, in those tables. And we are part of those negotiations. We are part of a whole lot of things, And it's for you to respect that there's people that have paved ways for you. And even for me, people like you, Ausfaith, that's why even now I respect them, because they've paved ways for us to come through. Your Sadiqs, they've paved ways for us to study. There's no way, even if it's my time now, the spotlight is on me, to disrespect them, look down upon them. But it's for me to even hold their hands and say, how did you do it when you see these kind of things? Or all the time, sort of like, even if I call it bowing down to them, let it be. Because they came into these spaces where we were not counted in these spaces. So those are the lessons that I took from them, that they came where we are not even seen. And now we are seen all over the world. That's why people can have, bigger brands can have your influencers and stuff and whatever. And now I empath that with the now generation. Whoever takes it will take it. The ones who doesn't want to take it, it's okay. I'm not forcing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that madala in the space where people are gonna say, this one is lamenting or now complain all the time, And it's funny, overseas, the older you get in our industry, it's where they kiss the ground that you're walking on. Here, the older you get, it's where they stamp you. It's like you are useless and stuff like that. But for me, because I've played in a global space, and I want to continue to play in that global space. But for now, I'm still enjoying, my film, creating films with storytellers. I'm a storyteller. I've always been a storyteller, and I'm still learning in that curve, because I always say, if I'm gonna say I know it all, even though I've got a vast of experience, if I know it all, it will be the saddest day of me, and it will be the end of me if I come with that attitude. So I'm still learning. I'm still on a learning curve all the time. But that's why I'm imparting my bag of wisdom with whoever that wants to listen. So for now, I'm enjoying that, and I'm enjoying the family space, and I'm enjoying. I think as you grow up, you look at things differently, and simpler things are like the best things. I'm not chasing.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I'm at a space where I've been sent scripts to read, and I can decide and say, "Oh, sorry, Kojo, I can't do justice. I can't do justice to your project." And that is a beautiful space to be in. That's a space that I'm in right now. But at the same time, I still want to do a lot of work, because I think I'm at my prime right now. I still want to do a lot of work with different brands, whether it be film, whether it be magazines, whether it be fashion space, whether it be personal branding, in terms of, maybe musicians or actors or whatever, or models. I still want to do, I've got so much to give. I still want to do that, but unfortunately, I'm going to do it in the way that I've always wanted to do it. And I'm still learning, and I still want to travel the world, because I love traveling. And I was lucky that in my tender age, my work took me all over the world, almost all over the world. And I met incredible people and even people that I never thought that I will be in the same space with. And I'll be forever grateful with that. And hence, I'm not clouded by that, because I knew who I was in the midst of those people. And I still want to continue with that mindset of saying, I still know who I am, because sometimes people think that you're arrogant when you know who you are. And sometimes when you're confident on knowing who you are, people think that you're so arrogant.
And having boundaries.
And having boundaries, And and I hope to collaborate with a lot of our local people, because the sad part is our local brands are not utilizing people that they're supposed to be utilizing. They look they look at you and then like they jump into the micro oven people that they look. It's okay. I'm not bitter about it, but I want us to. We can all the time be when Tyler now it's a thing of the moment. She's the thing of the moment. Then it's when now we want to jump into it. I mean, how many Tylers have been there? Even with her, she's done the work here, but you were not giving, you were not holding her hand, because now the Academy Music Awards, they're giving her the accolade, and then now you're jumping on. You want to jump on that thing, and then you forget other. There's still other Tylers here. Let's not. We need to grow our territories before we jump into that world. Because remember now, it's our time. I mean, that's why I like that Papama Clothing, Africa, your time, it's now. It's true, because the world is looking at us. But I like to say there's always been our time. They've always taken from us, those people. So even now, it's where, if there's Tyler coming, let's be happy for her, but let's make sure that we collaborate with other Tylers, your Black Coffees, your Nthato Mashishis, they're here. Let's collaborate. Let's do magic, Yeah. And let's stop this thing of saying when somebody is there, everybody, the world is on top, the spotlight, the world is on top of them. And then it's when we're thinking that this person is an it person. Yes, nothing, I'm not taking away from it. But we need to nurture and not sleep on our talent, because most of us, we sleep on the talent right under our noses.
Thank you very much.
Ngiyabonga.
The Listen to Your Footsteps podcast is produced by Zebra Culture. If you have ideas of what we can do better, people you'd like us to have a conversation with, or would just like to share a thought, you can email me on info@zebraculture.com. To check out past episodes, go to kojobuffer.com/podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend. If you'd like to get a copy of the book, Listen to Your Footsteps, check out kojobuffer.com/book. There are details on the various spaces it's available at. I'd also appreciate it if you could leave a review or comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, there's the Zebra Culture by Kojo Buffer newsletter, where on a weekly basis, I share a curated list of articles, playlists, videos, etc. that have caught my attention. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.